You're watching Unpackaged Goods. I'm your host, Jonathan Dieter. Welcome back. It's a beautiful sunny day. We have a great interview coming up. So we have the two founders of Millie Pepper. It was kind of fun. They are right up the street in Brooklyn, so we could have done it in person, but then we realized that we're all in Brooklyn. So that's coming up. We'll play that right now for you guys. But some housekeeping items before we dive in. If you haven't yet subscribed to our Substack or followed us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you get your content and your media, go check us out. Toss us a follow, forward us to a friend. And if you haven't yet, make sure that you follow the podcast, rate and review us 5 stars, forward it to a friend, colleague, a lover, whoever that you think would enjoy it. So that's it for the housekeeping items. And then we'll just continue the conversation as is. So welcome back to Unpackaged Goods. So I have two founders with me today. I have Michael and Roy. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Michael Aniak and the founder of Millie Pepper. I'm really grateful to be here today.
And I'm Roy Chan. I am the other co-founder of Millie Pepper, and likewise, very happy to be with you today, Jonathan.
Well, thank you, gents. Well, we were just getting into kind of the fun of AI and how brands are approaching that, and we'll talk a little bit about how you guys are using it, and then I want to get the story. But to kind of just continue with what we were talking about, a lot of brands are starting to look at all the different systems that they have, all the different platforms, and a lot of the data that they have. Is it speaking to one another? You're spending a lot of time manually inputting supplier data, inventory data, retail outreach. There's a lot of workflows that are fragmented right now. And so instead of trying to give you a one-size-fits-all platform with a bunch of pretty bells and whistles, what we try to do is take a really thoughtful workflow approach. And so we look at dissect workflows that you have, where you're spending the most time. Think about, ways we can automate with still a human touch. So it's not like we're giving, the keys to the Ferrari away to, some LLM and that it's going to have full access to your business. It's really going to manually, or not manually, but automate a lot of those manual tasks so that you have more time to put back into your business, back into your life, whatever it is you want to, free up and save your time on. So that's really what we're doing on the AI front. So many brands are approaching it differently with how they're, I think a lot of brands are looking how to track their COGS across SKUs. A lot of brands are looking how to, know when to order the next inventory batch. And so right now it's just kind of on vibes and feel, reaching out to retailers when they remember, lining up the co-man and the freight and the shipping and getting all of those parties and the supplier and getting all of those things moving in the same direction at the same time is incredibly difficult and is a pain point that a lot of founders have had. And I'm sure you guys are starting to explore some of these pain points. So for everyone that's listening that doesn't know who Millie is, would you guys, it's the first cracked pepper company that I've come across. So I'd love to learn more why cracked pepper and the industry that you guys are trying to reinvent.
Sure. Yeah. So Millie Pepper is a brand that we just launched 30 days ago. So a lot of the issues that, you just brought up in relation to operations, we're just getting our first taste of. But it's a very exciting time. Like I said, we launched 30 days
Zero
ago.
automation, by the way.
Yeah,
Zero automation.
Yeah.
all manual.
So we're going to have a conversation after this.
Yeah, we forced right through it. But yeah, we've been using our pepper our whole lives, and everybody has. It's the most used spice in the world, and I think for us, the least explored. And that was very much how we came across Millie, which was just a venture into curiosity. Personally in my kitchen, and I used to be a line cook, and I very much brought that home after I transitioned careers and home cook every day. And I have the things in my kitchen that make me happy. I have my olive oil, I have my salt from Newfoundland, I have my Japanese cutting knives, I have my nice butcher block, I have my oils and my vinegars. And it's taken me years to really curate this, but for me, it's a ritual that makes me happy. And that's why I love to cook. And when I finally got to pepper, I was like, what is this? What is this spice that I use every single day? And I just haven't questioned. And so it started with me trying to answer those very simple questions. Where is it? Where does it come from? What is it? Where does it come from? And by going down that rabbit hole, it really opened up an entire world of excitement for me when I realized that pepper is a fruit. It grows on a vine in tropical parts of the world. And when that fruit matures, it is then handpicked and dried and eventually shipped to us. But I think that story, when I started recognizing that it was a fruit, it really led me to this idea of fresh. I'm like any fruit, it must be picked fresh and enjoyed fresh. And so for us and Millie, Our goal is to really stay as close to the harvest as we can and deliver fresh pepper from a single origin so that you can enjoy the freshness of harvest versus what we have on our shelves today. For the vast majority and most of the pepper that people have tried, it's much closer to its expiration or the end of its life cycle. And there's really no understanding of when it was harvested or where it came from, which I think is a miss. It's very similar when we think about our olives or our coffee, like our coffee for coffee bean for coffee or cocoa for chocolate. It is also a fruit and should be respected the same way. So that's how we got there. And it's been an incredible journey along the way.
That's how you got there.
That's how I got there. Yes.
And Roy,
I-
how did
I-
you find yourself along the ride?
Yeah, totally different perspective. I would say, more from a consumer's perspective, just to rewind, I spent most of my career in consumer retail, working for, premium luxury brands, primarily in the fashion industry for many, many decades. And in 2020, I decided to make a switch and worked for a semi-durable goods company that sold travel goods called Away. And that's why I met Michael. He was part of my team. We were working together. We worked together for about 4 years. And, besides the professional relationship, we developed, a personal friendship. And, post both of us leaving at different times, and because we live literally 10 minutes away, we would take these, random walks on the park and just talk about life and talk about what we want to do. Me at the time, I was really done with the corporate world. I wanted to just take on projects that I really believed in, and most importantly, worked with and related with people that I got along with and respected. And so, we would randomly have these conversations, and Michael would share these ideas, new business ideas, which I encouraged a lot. And we talked. And one day he was like, I have the best idea, pepper. And I looked at him, with a real curious face. I'm sure he was laughing at me. I was like, why pepper? And then he started telling me, pepper is a fruit. I had no idea. Fresh pepper smells and tastes completely differently. I had no idea. All I knew was I use pepper every day. I cook to sustain my life, nothing much more beyond that. And I follow recipes. And almost all the recipes ask for pepper. But I went through the motions. I didn't know why I would need to put pepper because it never made a difference. Not when I was putting it in the dish, certainly not when I was eating it. And so when Michael shared some of the background that he, through research, got to know about pepper and what real fresh pepper tastes and smells like, I knew, he was onto something. So that's when I said, let's do this together.
Wow. I love that. Some of my like earliest memories as a kid, you're at a restaurant and the waiter asking if, do you want pepper?
Right.
With that. And on everything. And you think about what sits on a table, it's salt and pepper.
Mhm.
And I have some really unique salt and pepper shakers somewhere. They're owls. They might be on my shelf behind me. But for so long you think about two ingredients that haven't really been innovated. And I didn't realize it was a fruit either. And so tell us a little bit about where you're getting the pepper.
Yes. So when I wanted to try this fresh pepper or direct from a source, really recognizing that where it comes from matters, I reached out to farms across India, Vietnam, Peru, Ecuador, and I had a number of conversations and did try multiple types of pepper. But the more I was talking to these farms, I started to recognize that pepper was very much like a tertiary crop, or like they would happen to farm, chocolate and coffee, and then they just happen to have pepper. And for me, I really wanted to find a family that could teach me and, teach me about the cultivation of the fruit and what matters, why it matters, the different patterns in the seasons. And I found this fourth generation family farm in Ecuador. Pepper is all they've ever known. It's such a rich history. And the way that we communicated, Roy saw my first few emails with them, they're like this long because they're so romantic. And just like the way that we communicate about pepper, I was
Amazing.
like, this is it. But there were a couple of things there. It wasn't just like the fact that they only focused on pepper, and it wasn't the fact that they had fresh pepper from harvest, but it was also the fact that one of the pieces that really degrades pepper over time. And so what happens is when pepper is picked at harvest, it's filled with these natural oils, and those natural oils are what carries the aroma, the flavor, the health benefits. It's what makes pepper pepper. And over time, that starts to degrade. And so from us, if our goal is to get product as quickly from harvest to the hands of our customers, we really wanted to cut out long haul transport, which is, it sits on the ocean for, 45 to 60 days in these containers. And for us, we really wanted to have a direct line to the farm. So we ended up focusing specifically on South America, our neighbors there. And it also happens that our very romantic pepper farmers are there as well. And I had the, amazing experience of going down there in December, which is where all of our pepper content is from, and just seeing it and touching the soil and being there. And man, these guys weren't messing around. Like they had me carrying 150-pound bags of pepper over my shoulder when we were processing it. It was a real experience.
Yeah, you got to get your hands dirty a little bit while you were there.
Literally, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really neat. I think you always kind of have those aha moments when you're like, this is a fit, and it was a fit on many levels, as you could feel, you could sense, you could taste. You talked about earlier, rituals and routine, and you talked about your kitchen, and you said a couple things that I'm particular about in my kitchen as well: the knives, some of the spices that I use, the products that I use, and pepper is one that's so special because, like you said, and maybe it was you, Roy, in every recipe that almost every recipe I use or I follow, it asks for pepper. And, so often I just have the regular pepper. I have some nice, cracked black pepper that maybe I'll use with the steak. But for my everyday use, I don't think about it a lot. And, elevating that pepper experience, I think especially after COVID, we saw a shift towards a lot of at-home cooking, and a lot of people that were more focused on what they're cooking at home. There's really been a shift in towards, clean cooking, whole foods, clean ingredients. And that starts with what you're putting on top of your food, oftentimes when you're spicing it. And so what I really like about what you guys have done with Millie is the branding. It really pops. It sticks out. Can you tell us why you decided to go with that direction? What are you trying to convey with the branding and the messaging and the packaging?
Roy, do you want me to take this one?
No, please.
It was a hard journey because I think you're right. This is something that's, very important to both of us. And we had a tough road ahead of us. We still do, which is, convincing the average consumer that, pepper's worth caring about. And for us, when we look at the space and like how we can achieve that in shifting this mindset of pepper in the eyes of the consumer, I think for us, we really wanted to have a brand that was human and authentic and really reachable because, we ourselves are learning as we go. We're not spice experts and we're not, pretending to be something we're not. Like we have great people around us for sure that help guide us. But at the same time, like we want to learn alongside you. And I think for that, and from a brand perspective, we wanted to have a brand that felt approachable. And so, the name Millie, sort of came to me one night and always started as kind of like a starting idea. But the more we said it and the more we stuck with it, it just very much stuck and like felt very right. But, the name Millie, it's like when you think about, and this was after the fact, like Harry's, for example, when they entered the razor market, they're against like a Gillette and this and that, and they had a brand that was very approachable from a name perspective to be able to, feel a connection to their customers. And I think we have that advantage going for us as well. And then from like a pop or, visual perspective, I think, we have something very exciting and bold and fresh in our product that we sell. And when we think about the packaging, although it might look, quite exciting, it's really descriptive of what's inside the product. And we have like red as our brand color, yes, but like each tin tells a story of the type of pepper that's in it. So we have black, white, and green. And each one of those has a color profile that is a descriptor for the type of pepper. And then one really represents the flavor profile of that. So green, you have a much brighter green in like a fresh, citrusy, floral. Or in black pepper, we have a nice poppy red, which is more of the boldness of the black pepper and the spiciness of the black pepper. And so, it really came organically. And I think that for us, like, it does pop. I mean, it feels really good when we're filling the tins. We're like, this is really fun. Like, I think we have something nice here as a platform, but I think for us, we want that brand to continue to evolve with our customers. And, as we continue to develop as a business, I think it's an excellent starting point. And, for us, it's where we are right now, and it feels authentic and real. And, we couldn't be happier with how everything turned out.
Yeah, the process was pretty painstaking because as Michael said, I think fresh was the key feeling we wanted to convey. At the same time, we want to do this for everyone. It's a very democratic brand and a democratic business because this shouldn't be highbrow. Everybody should have a different expectation from this one spice, because if you do, the spice gives you back so much, not only at the end product when you're eating it, but while you're using it. You can smell it. It just makes the cooking process that much more enjoyable.
Completely. When you really have a product that you can taste and see and experience the difference, there's nothing like it. And you've talked a little bit about, both of you seem to be at-home chefs. And so is there a go-to recipe that you guys like to incorporate? Millie, are there dishes that maybe really stand out with one of the peppers as opposed to some of the others?
Yeah, the one that I learned early on in my discovery is, I'm lucky enough to have some really great cooks and chefs around me in my circle. And so I leaned heavily on them, and there was almost a unanimous answer in terms of, how to best experience pepper. And that is simply with eggs. And, a fried egg, a hard-boiled egg, soft-boiled egg, scrambled egg. It really is the perfect palette to let those flavors and those aromas come out. And it's just, so that's what, even in our post-purchase, when we're, talking to our customers, we really try to say, this is the way to start. But, to your point, there are some classics, like as we think about like a steak au poivre or a cacio e pepe, or just, a straight up steak is excellent too. But that said, I think you hit on a good point, which is we have this really exciting opportunity to kind of go down that road a little more when we think about educating our consumer and ourselves on, what is the best way to use our white, our green, our black. And, we're excited to actually have a recipe section of our site that's going to be coming in the next few weeks, which is going to start to celebrate some of those. And we've started to partner with some cooks and chefs in our circle to really work on recipes and sort of unexpected use of pepper. So I think some exciting stuff to come.
Yeah, Michael is a great cook, and not only that, he's always been very refined in all of his kitchen tools. He has the best of everything. Me, I just cook to survive. So we're coming from completely different places. But ever since I started using Millie, I love to drink chai tea, and I put the peppercorn in my kettle and I boil it, and it makes a complete difference. One, like the spice is perfect, and then since it's summer, tomatoes on
Yeah,
toast
it's
and
something. Yeah,
tons of pepper.
it's why we haven't talked about this yet, but I am doing a market coming up in the Catskills called
Yeah,
Old.
no, I remember. Yes.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about what to serve, and I think it'd be a great opportunity to have
Tomatoes, so
Yeah.
good.
hmm
I have a fresh tomato plant on my patio. So once
Perfect.
once those get going, I'm so excited, and I'll have to throw some Millie on it. So
Nice.
that's super cool. I've really learned a lot about both of you. Where are you originally from? Where did you guys grow up?
Right?
I am originally from Hong Kong. Yep, I came to the States when I was 14, 5 years ago,
I can tell.
and I've been in New York since.
Wow, cool.
And
So
then I'm from. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no. Please go ahead.
I grew up in Toronto, and I moved down to the U.S. about 12 years ago. New York.
On New York? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 10 years in New York this summer. So, Roy, you have us just
Yeah.
beat by just a couple of years. So,
Well, I'm twice as old as both of you put together. So, where are you from originally, Jonathan?
I was born and raised in Pacific Palisades, California. It's on the West Coast.
Nice.
I have some family in the Cleveland area. Spent some time there. Did my high school years there. Went to school in Connecticut, and then I've been in New York ever since.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's been a journey. It's so Roy, having grown up in Hong Kong, I'm sure there are a lot of dishes that are unique to your childhood that you don't get a lot of? What are some of your favorite spots in the city or in Brooklyn that you like to go to?
You know, I've been in New York, as I mentioned, many decades, and not
Yeah,
until recently can I say that I can find somewhat decent Chinese food. But now it seems like they're all over the place. I do have a favorite, but it's not Chinese. It's Japanese soba, and it's a little spot on Delancey Street called Kokoron. I eat there like 3 times a week.
I think I've heard of that. Okay. On
Yeah, it's really
Delancey.
good. Yes.
Michael, do you have any favorites in the city?
In this in this
Or
city,
anywhere, any
I would
personal
say
around the world?
the one that really hits home, I think, is Frankie's Fantino in Brooklyn, Carroll Gardens. And they're really fascinating. When we were starting to think about pepper, I have their cookbook, and it's so beaten down at this point. And I like a Bible for me, and they go so hard with white pepper. It's almost the only pepper type that they use, except for finishing what they
Interesting.
use black. Yeah, so they really opened my eyes a lot too. But I love Frankie's, and then their pizza restaurant F and F is just excellent as well for slices. So they kind of got it all for me.
It's great. I will take my dog over to Carroll Gardens almost every night, and I walk through the neighborhood, and I just love it.
Yeah.
It's just a quiet, peaceful neighborhood, good people, good food. So
Mhm.
hmm
Yeah.
it's great. No, I mean, that's part of, I love living in this area. There's a lot of good food. So as you go start to expand and think about your target consumer, are you thinking about restaurants? Are you thinking about retail, D2C? Are you prioritizing one over the other?
Well, we wanted to start with DTC, and not for any other reason, but simply to make sure that our engagement and our developing a relationship with the consumer is exactly how we envision it. And because what we're trying to do is not only share what we've learned about fresh pepper and the difference, but it's also a proposition where we're trying to say, you know what, you should expect more from pepper because you use it so often. And so we wanted to have that conversation with the consumer first, and that's our process right now. But ultimately, we also understand the challenges with a single channel, especially one that's virtual. Ultimately, we want to get the pepper in front of as many people as we can because we know once they try it, they will understand it. And so, that's our process and our strategy. Ultimately, it would be a multi-channel distribution, but we're very careful and deliberate because, we really want to curate the right relationship and tell the story our way.
Yeah, and what I'd add to that, Roy, is that we have early on seen pretty strong interest out of smaller retailers, very curated retailers around the country. And to me, this was somewhat of a shock that out of the gates there would be this level of interest, but it makes sense because I think they're already very familiar with their salts and their oils and their vinegars, and they have like a very curated shop, and they, are very knowledgeable about what they have. And I think it was a much easier, not sell, but like they got our proposition right away. And so being able to
hmm
establish those relationships early on has been really beneficial for us. And it also allows us to get into and in front of our consumer in different places in ways that, we can't always do at this stage through ecom, which is great.
I think it's interesting that you guys met it away because I think that there are a lot of parallels between what you guys are trying to do and cracking the pepper industry, no pun intended, and the travel luxury, or not luxury, but the travel equipment, suitcases, whatever you want to call it.
hmm
And I think it's like educating the consumer on how they're currently doing it and how it could be improved, small little luxuries and stuff like
hmm
travel. What do you guys take away from your time at Away Together now? How, like, well, as you build this pepper brand, are there parallels? There are, I'm sure, so many differences that you don't even think about, but
I mean, personally, and I think, Roy and I had a very good solid understanding of that business. Our goal there was to put it out internationally. And so, really understanding how the business worked, from a top to bottom perspective. And I think, it was, I'd say there was a lot of operational components that I think we can bring into this business and like how to structure a successful D2C business. So I think there was like a lot of good that we could take from that. And I think you'll actually see quite a bit of inverses when we think about a very large plastic object that has to be warehoused versus a very small pepper tin that needs to be warehoused, or, a wide variety of SKUs and optionality versus a very focused view of product. And I think, it was a very powerful experience for me understanding sort of the operational and financial components and considerations of a business, as well as, they did a tremendous job from a brand marketing perspective, which we're certainly trying to like tug on here. But, fundamentally a different product. But I think that there are certainly some good takeaways.
And then, I'm sure you spent many trips and many hours at Colusians, but are there any other stores or places that gave you inspiration as you were going down this journey?
SOS Chefs is great. They're a great little market in the city. And then Sahadi's in our neighborhood has an excellent
Yes.
spice selection as well. But I'd say, yeah, you nailed it with Loose Chins for sure.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stores. You can get lost in there. I love going in there for the different spices. And next time I go in there, I'm going to have to take a closer look at the pepper aisle because I'm sure it's going to open my eyes and be like, wow. So, well, this was really fun. Is there anything else that you guys would like to convey about the brand that we haven't touched on yet, or your story that you think would be interesting or important for the consumers to know?
I think the one piece that we haven't really touched on is for us, the mill, which, for us, when we were going into this business, pepper, of course, is our core product and our core offering and what we're built around. And I think the importance, like when we go back to pepper as a fruit and the essential oils and the importance of having it fresh from harvest, the best and really only way to experience pepper is to have it freshly cracked, as you mentioned. And one of the shocking early findings that we found is that the almost 70% of the pepper sold in the US is ground. And so what happens there is you're within 15 minutes of cracking pepper, it starts to lose its essential oils. And so for us, like there's a very big importance of cracking it fresh when you're cooking or when you're finishing a dish. And so we did work very hard to build a V1 of a mill to be able to support customers that either don't have their own mill or are looking for a new one. And, for us, looking at also what's available out there, most of the mills that are sold today are non-refillable and built with plastic components. And they're intentionally non-refillable because then, you throw it out, then you have to buy another one, therefore buying the pepper. And for us, it's like if we can arm our customers with a modest mill to start, not only can they experience pepper the way that it's meant to be, but they can refill it with Millie and or any other pepper that they can find at a Calustians or an SOS or a Sahadi's. And so, we really want to give them the option to have a mill as well and explore pepper the way that it's supposed to be enjoyed without having to break the bank, which I think is something that we're excited about as well.
And you guys started with pepper. Do you see this expanding into a spice platform?
I don't know about a spice platform. I think I was intentional, and this was, maybe just pre-Roy, calling it Millie Pepper and not calling it Millie Spice Company because, I think there's something to be said about focus and really doing the best that you can within a certain category. And I didn't want to kind of fall into the trap of sprawl when you look at like SKU count or just focus really, I think is the key piece. And so I think pepper is definitely going to be our category. And that was the other thing, like looking around, like you have great spice businesses and like a Diaspora or a Burlap and Barrel. But I think our focus is specifically on pepper and we want to be the best in that category. But mind you, there are many different varieties of pepper that exist in the world. When we think about, Szechuan peppercorn, when we think about hot pepper flakes, when we think about infusions or compounds or many other avenues to travel. So I think we have a really nice little umbrella under pepper that we want to continue to explore. But I think we have a long journey ahead of us with our starting lineup, if you will.
Well, the thinking, certainly we expect to expand our assortment, but the thinking is rather than going broad into other spice categories and beyond, it's really about this incredible ingredient and how do we increase its application across things that are expected as well as the unexpected, which, down the road you'll get to experience.
I'm really excited. It sounds like you guys have put a lot of thought into this, a lot of care into this, and really tried to take that initial emotional feeling that you got when you visited the farm and put that in a tin. And so I'm sure I'll be able to hopefully taste that, but it sounds like that's what the feelings you guys have been trying to convey through that. So this has been really fun. I look forward to getting together in person here in Brooklyn and
Love
getting
that.
together for a coffee or a meal and trying the pepper in real life. But if there's anything else that you want to say, now would be the last final chance to say it. Where can people find you, I guess? That would be, I guess, right now, just your website. Any specialty shops?
Yeah, we have on our site would be great. And then we also are in a couple stores here in the city. Big Night is one of our first retailers that we worked with and through
Awesome.
locations. And then on our site, we have an ongoing and growing list of about 40 retailers across the country. So please check in there. But yeah, would love you to come by the website to check out the story first and foremost.
Awesome. Well, Michael, Roy, this has been
Thank you
super
very
fun.
much
I
for your
really
time.
appreciate the time, and I really look forward to then getting it together in person.
Absolutely.
Likewise, Jonathan. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, gents.
Have
Really
a good
appreciate
day.
it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It's been busy, but I feel like we're starting to enter the summer lull. So deals are not getting announced as frequently, or fundraisers aren't getting announced as frequently, but we're still seeing a lot. And so this week is going to be an interesting one, and we'll dive in. As always, this podcast is brought to you by Trophy Wife, the official finishing salt of Deets Eats, because you are the prize, and so is this salt. Segment 1. So we're going to talk about Second Nature's brands because they are quietly becoming a platform that no one's really talking about. So this week they announced they bought Tillamook Country Smoker, a jerky, meat stick, all of the above company. So let's go through their acquisition history because I think it'll make a little bit more sense. In 2022, they bought Voortman cookies and wafers for $305 million. In 2023, they bought Sahale Snacks, a premium trail mix brand, for $34 million. 2024, they bought Brownie Brittle for an undisclosed amount. And this week, they announced Tillamook Country Smoker, $175 million plus in sales, 2 manufacturing facilities, and they were founded in 1975, so a reputable brand. So we have 4 acquisitions in 4 years. That's a lot. Each one adds a different snacking category and a different consumer occasion, which we talk a lot about, owning the consumer occasions. So what the portfolio looks like now. They have cookies and wafers through Voortman. They have premium trail mix through Sahale, brownie snacks through meat snacks through Tillamook, the breakfast, afternoon, on the go, and the protein snacking all under one roof. And with the own manufacturing facilities in the meat sticks, which is a huge strategic advantage as we've seen with other brands making sure they own the supply chain. So why no one's talking about this? No celebrity co-founders. They have no viral TikTok moments, no venture-backed launch party, no podcast interviews with the CEO, no trend pieces about disrupting snacking, just disciplined acquisition after disciplined acquisition. Buy a brand with real distribution and real consumer loyalty, plug it into the platform, and move on to the next one. We're seeing that a lot with the big conglomerates. That's the playbook that they look for. Real velocity, reputable brand, plug it into the distribution network, and let us do its work. So the manufacturing angle here. Tillamook comes with 2 production facilities in Oregon. That's vertical integration in meat snacks. Margin control, quality control, supply chain security. In a category where Chomps is approaching $900 million, every protein snack brand is fighting for co-packer capacity. Owning manufacturing is a massive advantage. The parallel to other platform builders. You have Church & Dwight. They have Hero Cosmetics, TheraBreath, Touchland, Miss Mouse. Same playbook, but in household and personal care. Bridgepoint, they have Obagi, Vivacy. Same playbook in dermatological care. Trek One has Good Karma, No Cow, Alter Eco. Same playbook in plant-based. Second Nature, Voortman, Brownie Brittle, Tillamook. Same playbook in snacking. Every one of these platforms have been built through disciplined M&A. None of these needed a viral moment. All of them are building the kind of diversified portfolios that produce billion-dollar exits, billion-dollar platforms. For founders, if you're building a snack brand between 50 million and 200 million in sales and strong retail distribution, brands as a buyer you should know. They're not looking for the next viral brand. They're looking for the next category to add to the platform. Consistent revenue, real distribution, consumer loyalty, owned manufacturing is bonus. The boring brands with real EBITDA are the ones getting acquired by platform builders. Miss Mouse at $325 million proved it last week. Tillamook at $175 million proves it this week. Tony's snoring. He's in a deep snooze. Segment 2, Smuckers and the results. So the stock jumped 12% and the dynamic shifting. You can hear the dog. He's dreaming. He's snoring. So 3 weeks ago, we talked about Smuckers hiring Goldman Sachs to do a portfolio review. Elliott Investment Management, one of their lead investors, was pushing for it. Sweet baked snacks are collapsing, and so the Hostess carve-out seems inevitable. But this week, the script flipped. So let's go through the numbers they reported. Q4 net sales, $2.3 billion, up 6%. Adjusted EPS, $2.77 a share, up 20%. They beat Wall Street estimates, and the stock jumped over 12%. So what changed? Nothing structurally changed. Sweet baked snacks are still declining. Coffee, Uncrustables, Pet are still performing. And the Hostess problem hasn't gone away. But the perception changed dramatically. When your stock jumps 12% in one day, the narrative shifts from crisis to confidence. So what this means for the portfolio review. 3 weeks ago, Smuckers was negotiating from a point of weakness, from a position of perceived was hired, and the market assumed a fire sale was coming. Now, Smuckers is negotiating from strength. Beating estimates by 20% on earnings gives the management credibility, and the stock popped 12%, which gives the board a little breathing room. Time is leverage in M&A. Smuckers just bought itself more of it. Outcomes here. Scenario 1, Smuckers uses the momentum to sell Hostess at a higher price. The strong Q4 proves that the rest of the portfolio is healthy, which makes the Hostess carve-out look more strategic and less desperate. Scenario 2, Smucker delays the review. If the operational momentum continues, Elliott urgencies loses steam. Activist investors push the hardest when the stock is declining. Pushing against a stock that just jumped 12%, a little harder. Scenario 3, Smucker shelves the review entirely. If the next quarter delivers similar results, the narrative shifts from Hostess is dragging the portfolio to Smuckers is executing despite Hostess. The irony, Jams is still outselling Uncrustables at Target. The Insurgent is still beating the Icon, but the rest of Smuckers' portfolio is performing well enough that the Jams story doesn't define the company anymore. The Q4 beat reframed the narrative from Smucker is in trouble to Smucker's core brand assets are strong and Hostess is the outlier. The reframing is worth more than 6% revenue growth. Segment 3. Remedy closed a Series A from El Caterden. The brand was founded in March 2024 and expects $50 million in net sales this year. Let me say that again. 2024 to $50 million in 2026. 18 months. So who's behind it? Famous TikTok doctor, Dr. Manib Shah. He's one of the most followed dermatologists on TikTok and Instagram. El Caterden is leading the deal, the same firm shopping around Thorne for $4 billion, and the one that backed Marsmen recently at $100 million in 18 months. And the ones who backed Marsmen recently, who they recently hit $100 million in 18 months. And they formed Champ with Kevin Durant and Cooper Flagg and a bunch of other athletes. Norwest is participating as well in Sonoma Brands Capital. Three institutional investors co-signing the velocity. So why El Caterden specifically matters the most? El Caterden isn't just writing checks. They're building the infrastructure for consumer brand exits. Thorne at $4 billion, Marsmen at $100 million in 18 months, Champ connecting athlete to brand investments. When El Caterden invested a skincare brand at Series A, they see a specific trajectory. Velocity now, scale next, exit to a strategic in 24 to 36 months. Their portfolio is the roadmap. Invest in the brand with the fastest velocity, provide operational support, and position for an acquisition by L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, Henkel, or Shiseido. So why the Remedy model works. Dr. Shah's social media audience converts directly to product sales. That's organic customer acquisition. No Facebook ads, no Instagram posts, no Instagram spend. When Oddity's CPA spiked 83% and the stock collapsed 30%, Remedy's model looks even better. The audience is the distribution channel for the first phase. Then Target, Amazon, TikTok, capture the consumer at every other touchpoint. It's the same model Grün's used. Build the audience, convert DTC, expand to retail. Grün's $1.2 billion exit, Catterton sees the pattern in Remedy. The speed, 18 months from founding to $50 million in 2026. For context, Mosh took 2 years to get 2,000 doors. Purely Elizabeth took 17 years to get 300 million. Remedy is projecting 50 million in 18 months. The dermatologist credibility, plus social media audience, plus Al Catterton backing, compressed the timeline dramatically. So what 50 million at Series A means, most brands raise their Series A at 5 to 10 million. Remedy is raising at 10 times that. At 50 million, you're not funding product market fit anymore. You're funding scaling infrastructure, expansion, international. El Catterton at the Series A of a $50 million brand isn't early stage investing. It's growth investing disguised as Series A timing. Segment 4, Stars Plus Honey raised $24 million from VMG. So I'd never heard of this brand. I've never tried this brand, so I need to go find it. So they launched in 2023. They grew 300%. They grew 300% in 2025, and they're on pace for 50 million this year. And they're building a 60,000 square foot facility. So why the protein bar category is the most crowded in CPG, besides maybe beverage. Quest, One, RX Bar, Kind, Cliff Bars, Barbells, Perfect, David, Mosh, No Cow, Go Macro, Think. I could keep going for another minute. Growing 300% in this category means the product is genuinely differentiated. Consumers aren't switching from their current bar to Stars Plus Honey because of marketing. They're switching because the bar is better. The VMG pattern. 2 weeks ago, VMG led Brammy's $33 million round for protein pasta. This week, they're leading Stars Plus Honey's round for protein bars. 2 protein-forward food investments in 1 month. VMG is building an explicit thesis. Protein-forward food brands with exceptional velocity. Bear Snacks sold to PepsiCo. Sunbum sold to SC Johnson. Perfect Snacks scaled. When VMG writes checks, exits follow. So the manufacturing decision. Stars Plus Honey is building a 60,000 square foot facility with the $24 million. This follows in the footsteps of Wild, who recently built a 130,000 square foot facility in Kentucky. Applied Nutrition has a 100,000 square foot facility. Chris Power at 15 million. So the vertical integration trend across protein brands is trending and it's expanding. At 300% growth, you can't depend on co-packers. Co-packers serve dozens of brands. Your runs get scheduled around everyone else's priorities. Owning manufacturing means you control the timeline, the quality, and the margin. It also signals to acquirers that the brand has real operational infrastructure, not just a brand co-packer relationship. The flavor forward angle. Most protein bars compete on macros, grams of sugar, and calories. Stars Plus Honey leads with flavor. Protein and collagen are table stakes. The taste is the same insight that made Chomps work in meat sticks. Flavor first, protein second. Same insight that made David work. Branded and experience first, macro second. The consumer buys Stars Plus Honey because it tastes great. They buy it again because it also delivers 15 grams of protein and collagen. So the 50 million trajectory. Stars Plus Honey and Remedy are both projecting 50 million this year. Both backed by Tier 1 VCs, VMG and El Catterton. Both building infrastructure, manufacturing and retail distribution, both growing at rates that separate them from the categories. The brands hitting 50 million fastest are the ones with clear differentiation, institutional backing, and vertical integration. Segment 5, AG1 Pro and the platform expansion thesis. So AG1 launched AG1 Pro this week, a creatine-infused version of the foundational greens powder. 5 grams of creatine monohydrate plus HM zinc comes 1 week after they launched omega-3s and Omega 10. Platform architecture under Catcall. AG1 Original, the core daily green wellness consumer. AG1 Omega-3, fish oil for the health-conscious consumer. AG1 Pro, creatine-infused greens for the performance owner consumer. 3 versions of that daily habit for distinct consumer profiles. 1 brand, 3 entry points, 3 reasons to subscribe. So why this matters strategically. AG1 was a single product company for a while. 1 SKU, 1 subscription. Under Catcall's new leadership, it's transforming into a daily wellness platform. Each new product layers onto existing habits rather than competing with it. The consumer who takes AG1 Original every morning can add Omega-3 or switch to Pro. You're not cannibalizing your core product. You're expanding the wallet share per customer. The creatine angle. We've been tracking the creatine industrial complex all year. Vital Protein Collagen plus creatine, Mosh creatine bars, Jimmy creatine plus collagen, Cakes RDD creatine, Moon Brew Sleep plus creatine, Crete's national campaign with Kendall Toole. Now AG1 Pro has added creatine to the greens. Every brand in America is legally required to add creatine now, to at least one product at this point. But AG1 doing it is the biggest signal yet. This is the most established daily supplement brand in the world, saying creatine belongs in the daily routine, not just the gym bag. The competitive implications. Grüns is scaling at Kroger, Whole Foods, all under Unilever. AG1 is expanding the product line at Walmart. Different strategies, same war. Grüns wins through retail distribution and breadth. AG1 wins through product portfolio depth. Both are trying to win the daily wellness habit. The winner is probably whoever does it first. Segment 6, the FDA sunscreen decision in Suja Q1. So, stories that deserve attention. The FDA approved betromizerol. The FDA approved bimotrizomorol, the first new sunscreen ingredient since the 90s. It's been used safely in Europe for decades. It provides both UVA and UVB protection, low levels of skin absorption, and it's now approved for OTC sunscreen in America. So why this is a bigger deal than it sounds. Every sunscreen brand in America, Sunbum, Vacation, Kinfield, Everyday Humans, Dr. Squatch, we cover in sun care. A new active ingredient, it's been proven safe in Europe for years, gives formulators a new tool they've been begging for. Better with lower skin absorption means cleaner, more effective sunscreen. The brands that reformulate first with bimotrizonol, I'm going to always pronounce it wrong, have a marketing advantage now with the most advanced UV protection available. This regulatory change creates an entire product innovation cycle across sun care. New SPF products, reformulated existing products, marketing campaigns around the new ingredients. For sun care brands, this is like the FDA approving a new ingredient that every brand wants to use. Suja Life, Q1, $107 million, up 22.5%. Newly publicly traded company is delivering. Their gross margin is sitting around 50%. Net income of $7.7 million, 7.2% margin. So the IPO that raised $186 million is proving the public market thesis quarter after quarter. 50% gross margins on functional beverage is excellent. Positive net income at this scale with 22.5% growth silences the bears succeed in the public markets. After all birds and once upon a time and once upon a farm stumbled, Suja is showing that the IPO path works when the fundamentals are right. Segment 7, rapid fire. Let's get it. So Bowery raised $6 million from Brand Foundry for sparkling aqua frescas. Remedy Health raised $18 million for 3D personalized gummy supplements. Animal Capital closed Fund 3 at $30 million. Diamond Brew closed a 7-figure seed round. Aero Farms was acquired by Palm Ventures. Tilroy sold Atwater Brewing back to the founder. And Fizzin, Kristen Cavallari's brand, launched in Target. So a couple launches worth watching. Tom Brady and Goodnut are now on GoPuff. Barbells is launching a low-sugar gummy. Svetka has vodka water in clear cans. Ugh, gross. Smash Kitchen has pasta sauce at Walmart. That was an interesting one. La Vizana is bringing espresso K-Cups to the U.S. Pierre Gasly, the F1 driver, launches Minted. Boylan is launching a Freedom Soda for America's 250th. And Snooze launched Sleep Ice Cream in the UK. Couple distribution quick hits. Cadoots nationwide at Target. Day Out, 2,000 doors at Target. Vacation is launching at Sephora. Throne Coffee at CVS. Elle's Kitchen nationwide at Sprouts. Kato is at Fairway here in New York. And she won a pitch slam. Congrats. And Stimmy is online. Alrighty, we just ripped through a lot of news. So we'll chop up the interview. We'll get that going. Last couple housekeeping items. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. It means the world to me that you would listen, that you like to listen. If you've gotten something out of this or learned something interesting, I would love it if you could forward it to one friend, colleague, family member, whoever it might be. That would be super helpful. Spread the love. The deeds eats love. Thank you if you've made it this far. It means the world to me, and I'm so excited to see where this continues to go. We out.